Hello, everybody. Jim here in my little cozy apartment in Tokyo on this cold January night, not having beer for a change of pace. Tonight I'm warming myself up with a little bit of hot chocolate, actually, which I thought might be a nice little change of pace. Usually I'm relaxing with a beer while I do these, but there's not a drop in the house tonight, so hot chocolate it is in this lovely thermal mug I recently picked up for myself. Welcome back for another conversational video, as I believe we've settled on calling them. They are raw. They are uncensored, uncut, and uncooked. They're raw. For anyone that gets that reference, some 90s kids in there. Tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about game collecting, retro game collecting, to be exact, which is, I guess, kind of the question on my mind, and something I'd like to hear from you all is, when is it time to slow down and or stop altogether, or even sell off a portion of your collection, or all of it? Because this is stuff that's been on my mind recently. I've still been collecting games, just to a much lesser extent. This all started really when I was living in Texas for that little while, if anyone's been subscribed for that long. While I was there, I sold a big chunk of my collection just because I was trying to save up money for my return to Japan. And also, the less I had to move around, the less it was going to cost me. So I figured, I could kill two birds with one stone, sell a bunch of games, get a bunch of money, and then also reduce my moving costs. So I did that, moved all of my remaining games here, which was still a lot. As of right now, I probably have, I guess I would say I have between maybe 1,000 and like 12 or 1,300 games. I'm not sure exactly how many, but I have quite a lot of games here in the apartment. And so I still had a big collection, and I moved it over, and then moved from where I was living in Kanagawa into Tokyo. And after finishing school, I had a decent little bit of money saved up as I started back to work. But I guess my mindset was, okay, it reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons. There's a quote by Mr. Burns where someone says something about how much money he has, and he says, "Ah, yes, but I'd trade it all for a little more." And that was how I felt at the time. Financially, I was feeling okay, but I was like, I could use a little more. So I took to selling games, and while most of what I was selling was stuff people would request, and I would go and pick up for them, which is something I still do, some of it was stuff in my collection. I had some offers for some things in my collection, some more high-dollar stuff, and I kind of, and they were really good offers, and I had the thoughts, well, what do I want more right now? This game or that money? Because it's a game, there are other copies of it out there, it'll be expensive, but if I ever really want it back, there's always the opportunity to just buy it again. Or if you really just want to play it, you can emulate it or whatever. So on a number of those offers, I came to the conclusion, I guess I'd rather have the money. And when I sold those games and got that money, and in the first, 2 or 3 months I was selling games, I was, pretty handsomely, being paid, came away okay. I was actually making more from selling games than I was making from my day job. It was going pretty well. And I guess you could say that making money kind of gives you like a little bit of an endorphin boost. It's very similar to when you're game hunting and you find, some game you've been looking for and you pick it up and you're like, oh man, I finally got this. When somebody drops, $1,000 into your PayPal, that feels pretty good too. So as I started to sell some games, I was like, wow, is it time for me to start selling like all of them? Like, what do I do? And I haven't come to that conclusion yet. Obviously, I haven't sold all my games because I do like collecting games, obviously, and playing them, of course, and having all these games available whenever I need them. It's great for like series I do on YouTube, like Import Game of the Day. Like every game featured in Import Game of the Day is a game I physically own. And Show Reviewkin. I want to bring Show Reviewkin back this year. It'll be the 200th review for that series. Everything I've ever reviewed for that series is something I physically own, and I want to continue that. So it's great to be able to go to the shelf and find all kinds of stuff that I can use to feature in those series. But realistically, I mean, a lot of the retro games that I play now, I play for YouTube. I think maybe that's one of the things that has sort of encouraged me to scale back my collecting a little bit, is that I put so much time into creating YouTube content. That's less time that I have to just play games casually. So when I'm putting together episodes of Import Game of the Day, for example, I will designate one day out of the week to just work on those videos alone. So pretty much from the time I wake up to sometime late at night, sometimes until I go to bed, I'll be working on those videos the entire day. So if I'm not capturing gameplay footage, I'm writing scripts, or doing the voiceover, or doing the editing. And I try to get I try to get 3 of those out every week. And if I apply myself, in one day, I can make a week's worth of those videos and have at least a couple of components of some more episodes that I can make for the following week. I can do all of that in one day. So typically when I'm playing games these days, I'm usually recording that footage. That's why I'm playing them. And whenever I do just take some time to just sit and play some games for fun, just by myself, I'm not, combing through the shelves like, oh, what do I feel like playing? I usually just go back to my favorites. And, I have a little time, I'll probably just play Gradius or Donkey Kong Country or Mega Man or something like that. So realistically, I said I have over 1,000 games in the collection, but I could be just as happy with 50 games, something to that effect. So it does beg the question, when are you done collecting? Or maybe you're never done collecting. Maybe you're the kind of person I think Last Gamer is someone who just maybe if I was in his shoes, I would do the same thing. Like if I had the funds he has, maybe I would just buy every video game in existence. I think that's something I would probably like to do, even though knowing I would never play all those games. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's something like the kid in me, right? Like when I was a little kid, and the only time you got video games were Christmas and birthday. And there were so many games out there at the time. There were competing consoles. There's the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, and then comes in the PlayStation and the Saturn and the N64. There's all these games all the time, and I'm reading gaming magazines, and I'm going to, whatever store, either Walmart or an electronics store, and just looking at all these games. And in my head as a kid, I want all of them. I'm not even thinking about whether or not I'm going to be able to play them all. I'm just thinking to myself, those are video games. I love video games. I want all of them. And maybe as an adult, if I was a millionaire, I would just buy every game in sight and fill up a small museum like Last Gamer did. But that's not the case. So like I said, even though wasn't hurting for money, I still was, of the mindset that, well, hey, more money couldn't hurt, right? And I'm kind of still in that mindset. So while I still do pick up games, especially on my game hunting trips, it's scaled back. When I first started this channel, it was very different. I was surrounded by hard-offs. I was in the military at the time, so like my expenses were like low and my pay was decent, and I could just go around these hard-offs every weekend where the prices were super low. A lot of the games I bought, I did buy from like the junk bins and stuff. I was just buying games for 100 yen a piece, so every weekend I would just buy like 20 games, 30 games or something, and come home. And when all you're doing YouTube-wise is just the occasional pickups video, you know, like 1 or 2 a month or something as I was doing, there's not a whole lot distracting you. You just go to work and then go home and play games. Now, though, I don't know, I've changed as the years have gone on. I have a job. Well, I had a job then, but I have a job. But in addition to my job, I put more time into YouTube than I did then. I take it a little more seriously now because I have a bigger audience now, and because I'm actually making money from it. And that's something that can kind of pique your interest and make you take it a little more serious. You see the potential in it. I can captivate an audience, then I can make some money. So you take it a little more seriously, you put a lot more time and energy into it, and then aside from that, selling games as well. So almost all of my time is taken up between those 3 things: work, YouTube, and then selling video games. And there's less time to just enjoy myself, just sitting back and playing some games. So when I do go out game hunting, it's very typical for me to be very, very selective about what I buy. And whereas maybe 8 years ago, I would have been picking up 20 games per trip, now I'll probably pick up 2 or 3, and I'll be a little bit frugal. Aside from the holiday game hunting trip I did last month, where that was like my one day of the year where I was like, okay, this is going to be kind of like my little reward to me for being such a good boy this year to, you know, spend a little more money on myself today. But aside from that, I've been more frugal, been scaling back on game collecting, and even selling off little bits and pieces of my collection. Not huge chunks, mind you, but whenever I see there's an offer for something where I'd prefer to have the money over the game, I've taken that because, like I said, they're video games. You can get them back later. You can emulate them if you want to. I don't think they're not gone forever, unless somehow they are gone forever someday. Like there's no ROM of something and all the copies are destroyed somehow, but that seems unlikely to pass. But I guess that's where my head's at right now. I really still love gaming and collecting video games. It's just other things have kind of taken priority, and the mindset of money versus video games is kind of they're duking it out in my head, and I'm wondering which way am I going to shift. Maybe, who knows, maybe a year or two down the line this channel isn't a retro gaming channel anymore. Maybe it's a modern gaming channel, or maybe it's a mix of the two. Who knows? Because that's another thing. I have no modern consoles right now. There's all kinds of games I'd love to be playing. I guess I feel like I don't have the time to play them, and I don't have the space in here. Everyone knows that my apartment is tiny and my shelves are sagging, and there's just not the room in here for another console with a library of games to support it. So maybe before I would start buying up modern consoles, I would either need to move to a significantly bigger apartment, which is a possibility this year, or B, make a lot of space by getting rid of some of these games, which is also a possibility. You never know. These are all things I'm mulling over. It's just me thinking out loud. But I would like to hear from all of you in the comments, those of you who collect games, because I know I have some viewers that don't necessarily collect games, but they are gamers, and they just enjoy watching my content, which I always appreciate. But for those of you who do collect, when do you think it'll be time to scale back collecting, or to stop, or to sell some of your collection? Or if you've already done that, what was the breaking point, for lack of a better term? That time for you, what was it that made you decide to do that? I would really like to know, because like I said, I'm thinking out loud, and it's always great to get some second or third or however many opinions you can to get some insight, inform your decisions a little bit. So yeah, there you go. Retro game collecting. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something I've wanted to do since I was a kid, just have tons and tons of video games. But, there are other things in my life that are kind of like trying to, make room for themselves and pushing the games aside and things. So it's a struggle. It's an internal conflict. How do you resolve this? So let me know down in the comments your thoughts on all of my anarchic ramblings tonight. And I gotta drink this hot chocolate. It's sitting here staring at me, saying, "Drink me, drink me." And so I shall. I shall drink my hot chocolate from my Snoopy thermal mug. Thank you, everyone, for listening. The 2019 was a big year for the channel. It more than doubled in size. I think at the start of 2019, we were coming up on like 8,000 subscribers, something to that effect. And as of right now, it's over 17.6 thousand and over 1 million views in the past year. We're actually over 2 million views total for the channel now. And that's great. So thank you, everyone. Our channel doesn't really go anywhere if nobody's watching it. And so, thank you all very much for watching and presumably enjoying the videos and subscribing and sharing and doing all of the things that help a channel grow. I appreciate that very much. Like I said, you've put me now in a position where I have a larger audience, and so I feel motivated to make better content. And you've also put me in a position now where I'm making some money, and that is, I don't know, I can't express how much I appreciate that. You all just watching my videos is putting money in my pocket, which is like a weird thing. I'm still kind of like, coming to terms with, because it was like the longest time I didn't even consider making money from YouTube, and now I'm making a little bit, and I appreciate that so much. I appreciate you guys watching and supporting me and helping the channel grow. It's fantastic, this digital age we live in, the e-commerce, all that stuff. Anyway, I'm getting like way off topic. That's not even what this video was about, but thank you anyway, everybody. Thanks for listening. Again, let me know down in the comments your thoughts on all this wacky stuff I've been talking about. And until next time, take care, everybody. Goodbye.